Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today is Thursday, January 22, 2026. And I have to say, if you're expecting things to, ease into the new year,
Not a chance.
not a chance. We are staring down a list of 59 distinct announcements from just the last 10 days.
It is an incredibly dense week. I mean, usually you see this kind of volume around Redot and Vent, right? But this is just, it's a massive push across the board.
It really is.
From the silicon all the way up to high-level AI integration.
It's a flood. And so the mission for this deep dive is to cut through that noise. We're assuming you've seen the headlines. We want to get into the engineering side of things.
Right, the implications.
Yeah, the operational improvements, the architectural shift.
Yeah.
Because, scanning this list, there's a real flavor to these updates.
There is. Well, the press is, all about the new models and the flashy AI stuff. The real story here for me is optimization. It's operational maturity. We're seeing tools that cut down deployment times, give you way better debugging, more control over your resources.
Whether that's cloud, on-prem, hybrid.
Exactly. The theme is efficiency and, day two operations.
Which is exactly what we like to hear. So here's the roadmap. We'll start with AI infrastructure tooling, SageMaker, and Bedrock. Then we're going to unpack this massive refresh of EC2 instances. We're talking NVIDIA, Intel, AMD.
Some very specialized silicon in there.
Oh, yeah. Then we've got critical database improvements, and finally some of those quality of life updates for security and networking that hopefully save you some debugging time.
The kind of updates that keep the pager quiet. Let's get into it.
Okay, starting with AI infrastructure. First up, Amazon SageMaker HyperPod. They've introduced enhanced lifecycle script debugging.
This is one of those updates that sounds kind of minor until you're the engineer trying to provision a cluster with 1,000 GPUs.
Right. Walk us through the pain point there.
So when you're spinning up a training cluster, you have these things called lifecycle scripts. They run on every single node at startup to, install drivers, mount file systems, all that configuration. Previously, if a script failed on, say, node 452, it was just a black box.
You just see a generic timeout.
A timeout, a failure, and the whole cluster creation rolls back. And in that scale, just finding the log to figure out why it failed is, it's a whole project.
It's a project in itself.
Exactly. So what they've changed is the visibility. The error messages now give you the specific CloudWatch log group and stream name right there in the console.
Very nice.
And more importantly, they added markers. You can see when a script download started, when it finished, or exactly which line through the exit code.
So it just crushes that time to cluster.
It does.
Yeah.
And in LLM training, time to cluster is a direct cost. Every minute those instances are idle because a node is hanging on a dependency. That's just expensive waste. This cuts down the time to fix those failures.
And speaking of preventing failures, there's another HyperPod update. Service quota validation.
This is all about prevention. Historically, you'd kick off a cluster creation, walk away, and come back 20 minutes later to see it failed because you hit a VPC limit or a storage quota.
The classic half-provision state where you have to go clean everything up by hand.
Precisely. Now, the HyperPod console pre-checks your account limits, your instances, storage, VPC quotas, before it even starts the process.
It just moves that failure to the left.
Yep. Before you've committed a single resource. Smart.
Very smart. Okay, let's move up the stack to Amazon Bedrock. The reserve service tier has been expanded.
Right, so now it's available for Anthropic's, Claude's on at 4.5 in GovCloud, and then Opus 4.5 and Haiku 4.5 are general.
But the real story isn't just the availability, it's this pricing model change around asymmetric token usage.
This is fascinating. It really shows AWS is paying attention to the actual shape of production AI workloads.
When you say shape, you mean the input to output ratio.
Exactly. So traditionally, you'd reserve capacity based on some flat rate. But think about a RAG workload or summarization. You feed it a 50-page document. That's a huge number of input tokens.
And you get back a one-paragraph summary. High input, low output.
Right. And then a creative writing bot is the total opposite. Tiny, prompt, pages of text.
Low input, high output.
And computationally, those are really different. Input processing can be parallelized, but output generation is serial, one token at a time. So if you're forced to buy a symmetrical unit of capacity, you are always over-provisioning one side of that equation.
So this lets you allocate different capacities for input and output tokens per minute.
Yes. You can match your reservation to your app's actual traffic pattern. Building a summarizer, buy heavy on input. Building a chatbot, balance it out. It's just a much more mature way of planning capacity.
That leads perfectly into the next one, cost visibility. AWS Data Exports now breaks down Bedrock usage by operation type.
This is a huge win for FinOps. Before, you'd just see Bedrock usage in your bill. Now you can see the difference between, say, invoke model inference and invoke model streaming inference.
And why does that matter to an engineering team?
Well, streaming has a different cost profile. It often means a different user experience, too. If your costs are spiking, you need to know if it's because you have more users or because your devs switched everything to streaming responses. You can't optimize what you can't see.
Right. A few rapid-fire AI updates then. Bedrock API keys now in GovCloud.
Which simplifies authentication there a lot.
And SageMaker Unified Studio added cross-region and IAM role-based subscriptions.
That's a big one for breaking down data silos. You don't have to replicate your data anymore. You can just subscribe to it from another region using an IAM role.
Also, Amazon Lex has a new Neural English ASR model for better accent recognition. And interestingly, configurable voice activity detection.
Yeah, the VAD. You can set it to default, high, or maximum. And that maximum setting is designed for really noisy places, like a factory floor.
So it doesn't mistake background noise for speech.
Exactly. Standard VAD can get confused by clatter, and it keeps the mic open so the bot never responds. This lets you tune that threshold way, way up.
All right. Let's transition. Time for the heavy metal, segment 2, the compute hardware refresh. And refresh is kind of an understatement.
It really is. I mean, the days of just choosing general purpose or compute optimize they're long gone. We're seeing specialized silicon for just about every workload now.
Okay, let's start with the G7E instances, now generally available.
This is the NVIDIA RTX PRO 6000 Blackwell architecture.
Specs are impressive. Up to 8 GPUs, they're saying 2.3 times the inference performance over the G6E.
But the key here isn't just the raw compute, it's the interconnect. They support GPU Direct P2P and RDMA.
Okay, for those of us who don't live in the kernel, explain RDMA, Remote Direct Memory Access.
Right. So normally, if GPU A needs to send data to GPU B, that data has to travel through the main CPU and system memory. It's a bottleneck. RDMA lets the GPUs talk directly to each other's memory, completely bypassing the CPU.
Oh.
For heavy inference, where you're shuffling massive textures or context between GPUs, that memory movement is the real limiting factor, not the math.
Got it. So next up, C8GN instances, powered by Graviton 4, and now in a bunch of new regions, Mumbai, Cape Town, Dublin.
Graviton 4 is AWS's latest custom silicon. You're looking at about 30% better compute performance than Graviton 3. The N means network optimized, so these things have just massive bandwidth.
Perfect for what? Network appliances, firewalls?
Yeah, or heavy data analytics where you're just moving terabytes of data around constantly.
Then we have the Intel-powered X8i instances.
The X series is all about memory. These are the beasts. They're SAP certified, go up to 6 terabytes of RAM.
6 terabytes?
Yeah, 43% higher performance than the last gen. This is purely for those huge in-memory databases like SAP 8 HANA. If your database doesn't need to live entirely in RAM, you probably don't need this.
And then, interestingly, the X80 instances, these are AMD EPYC, codenamed Turin.
These are fascinating. They run at 5 gigahertz.
5 gigahertz. That's basically the highest sustained clock speed in the cloud.
It is.
So in a world of parallel processing, what on earth needs 5 gigahertz on a single core?
Electronic design automation. EDA.
Chip design.
Exactly. Specifically, single-threaded chip design workloads. See, when you're designing modern chips, the software licenses for the tools from Cadence or Synopsys are often the single biggest cost, and they're usually billed per core.
Oh, I see. So you want the absolute fastest single core you can get to minimize your license count.
Precisely. If one 5 gigahertz core can do the work of 2.5 gigahertz cores, you might have just halved your software bill. That clock speed is a direct financial optimization for that specific industry.
That makes so much sense. And it has a 32-to-1 memory to vCPU ratio.
Right, massive memory per core. Again, for loading these enormous design files into memory for a single process.
Just to round this out, the U7i high memory instances expanded too. They go up to 16 terabytes.
For when 6 terabytes just won't cut it.
I can't even imagine. One quick operational update on the instance scheduler. It now has insufficient capacity retry logic.
That's a smart little update. So if you're doing automated start-stop to save money, and it tries to start your preferred instance like an M5.large.
And EC2 says, nope, none available.
Right. The scheduler can now automatically try an alternate instance type that you've defined. It just makes those schedules more reliable.
Okay, let's move on. Segment 3, databases and analytics. And the headline here is definitely RDS blue-green deployments.
This is an absolute Game changer for maintenance windows.
The stat they gave is that switchover downtime is down to under 5 seconds for a single region.
And if you're using the AWS Advanced JDBC driver, it's under 2 seconds.
Under 2 seconds.
Yeah, because you're not waiting on DNS to propagate.
That's incredibly fast.
Yeah.
Why is this so much better than the old way of doing major version upgrades?
Well, the old way was downtime. You take the database offline, you run the upgrade, you cross your fingers, and you bring it back up.
Right.
Blue-green lets you build a parallel green environment with the new version, keep it synced up with your blue production database, and then you just flip the traffic.
And with the 2-second flip, the application might not even see an error, just a tiny latency spike.
Exactly. It makes major version upgrades possible for applications with really strict uptime requirements, and it de-risks the whole thing. If the green environment has issues, you just don't flip the switch.
Speaking of building databases, there's a really interesting integration with Vercel v0.
This falls into that whole natural language to infrastructure category.
So you can prompt v0 to build a full stack app, and it just automatically provisions the backend on Aurora or DynamoDB.
It completely abstracts the provisioning. The developer just describes the app, and the tool figures out the schema and the AWS resources. It's moving away from configuring settings to just declaring your intent.
We also saw a bunch of updates for RDS SQL Server. You can now do differential and transaction log restores while staying in multi-AZ.
That fixes such a long-standing pain point. You used to have to convert the instance to single AZ to do the restore, then convert it back.
Which broke your high availability.
Totally. Now you can do it in place, keep your HA.
They also added bare metal support for Oracle Standard Edition 2 and released a bunch of security patches.
Standard, but essential stuff.
Shifting to Redshift. Redshift Serverless now has queue-based query resource management.
This is about bringing those provisioned style controls to the serverless world. You can now set priorities for different user roles.
Your data science team's giant query doesn't block the CEO's dashboard from loading.
Exactly. You avoid the noisy neighbor problem inside your own company.
And Clean Rooms now support SQL hints and parameters in PySpark templates.
Both of these updates, the Redshift queues and the Clean Rooms hints, they point to this theme of serverless maturity. Enterprises need these granular knobs to optimize performance and cost, even in a serverless model.
All right, let's head into segment 4, storage, networking, and hybrid. I want to start with a quality of life update that I know storage admins will love. EBS elastic volumes.
Go on.
You can now modify a volume change its size, or IOPS, 4 times in a 24-hour period.
Oh, wow. It used to be once every 6 hours.
Right. And if you made a mistake or you had a sudden spike and needed to scale up and then back down, you were just stuck.
You were locked in for 6 hours. Yeah, this is huge for agility. If you provision a volume and realize right away it's the wrong tier, you can just fix it. It removes that penalty for making a quick change.
Okay. Moving to hybrid and outposts. Gen 2 Outpost racks have expanded to 20 new countries.
A lot of expansion there. And S3 on Outposts is now on those Gen 2 racks with up to 786 terabytes.
That is a ton of local storage.
Right.
But the most interesting Outposts update to me is the multiple LGW routing domains.
LGW being the local gateway.
Right. You can create up to 10 isolated routing domains per outpost. Why would you need that?
It's for traffic segregation. Think of it like bringing VRFs down to the outpost.
Virtual routing and forwarding.
Exactly. Imagine you're a big bank. You have one outpost rack, but you need to guarantee that the trading floor traffic never, ever touches the retail banking traffic at the network layer. This lets you enforce that isolation.
On the networking side, VPC IPAM, the IP Address Manager, now supports policies for RDS and application load balancers.
This is all about centralized governance. Network admins can define which IP pools RDS and ALBs are allowed to use. It prevents developers from accidentally provisioning things in the wrong subnet.
It enforces the architecture at creation time.
Yep. And VPC Route Server expanded to 16 new regions, which is great.
Finally, segment 5, developer productivity, security, and management. I want to start with what might be the small but mighty update of the week. IAM access denied error messages.
Oh, I know exactly which one you mean. I might actually print this update out and frame it.
In same account scenarios, the error message now explicitly includes the policy ARN that caused the deny.
This is massive. Anyone who has debugged IAM knows the pain. You get access denied, and you have 10 different policies attached. Identity policies, SCPs, resource policies.
You have to guess which one is blocking you.
You just guess. Or you start detaching them one by one. Now it just tells you, it was this specific SCP. This is going to save thousands of engineering hours. No question.
Moving to security, Amazon Inspector now supports Java Gradle builds.
Right. It scans the Gradle.log file. It's widening the net for vulnerability scanning, moving it right into the build pipeline itself.
And for Lambda, we now have cross-account DynamoDB streams triggers.
This kills a lot of glue code. Before, if you wanted a Lambda in account A to react to a DynamoDB table in account B, you had to build some kind of middleware to pass the message. Now you just set the trigger directly. So much simpler.
Amazon Connect had a really busy week. Random sampling of contacts for evaluation.
Which is great for unbiased agent auditing.
Agent scheduling metrics in the data lake. Recurring overrides for operating hours.
That recurring override is handy. Set a rule for the first Monday of the month, and you're done. No more manual updates.
And screen recording status via EventBridge so you know immediately if a recording failed.
That's critical for compliance. You need to know instantly if the recorder breaks, not a week later during an audit.
Just a couple more to round us out. The billing console has an enhanced transactions view that apparently loads in milliseconds now, not minutes.
Always welcome. Waiting for the bill to load is just adding insult to injury.
IoT Device Management added a Wi-Fi simple setup using QR codes.
Which is great for the consumer setup experience.
And QuickSight SpiceE datasets can now go up to 2 terabytes.
Doubled the limit. Big data gets bigger.
So, bringing it all together. We've hit on 59 updates, from 5-second database switchovers to better IAM error messages.
It's a really broad spectrum.
What's your big takeaway from this week?
You know, for all the amazing tech in the new Blackwell chips and the 5 gigahertz processors, I keep coming back to what I'd call hidden efficiency. The things that will actually change the day-to-day life of an engineer are those EBS modification limits, the IAM debugging, the service quota checks in SageMaker.
The quality of life improvements.
Exactly. It really shows a maturation of the whole cloud operational model. It's not just about, can we do this cool thing anymore? It's about, can we do it reliably, debug it quickly, and optimize the cost? And that's what this batch of updates really enables.
That is a great way to put it. I would definitely encourage everyone listening to check their region availability, especially for the new Graviton and Outposts locations. And if you're using SageMaker HyperPod, go look at those new service quota checks.
Absolutely.
That is it for this deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next update.